Nearly 11,000 meters down, the Mariana Trench faces crushing pressure, roughly 50 jumbo jets stacked on your chest, and a darkness broken only by the rarest flickers of life. Forget the giant monsters you have heard about. Down here, life does not grow large. It shrinks, adapts, and barely survives. What really lurks at the bottom reveals why everything you think you know about the deep sea is about to be challenged. The journey into the Mariana Trench begins at the surface of the Western Pacific, east of the Mariana Islands. Here, the ocean stretches out in every direction, but beneath the waves lies a scar in the Earth's crust that plunges deeper than anywhere else on the planet. The trench itself runs for about 2,543 kilometers, 5 times the length of the Grand Canyon, carved by the Pacific Plate sliding under the Philippine Sea Plate. At its deepest point, Challenger Deep, the seafloor drops to nearly 10,994 meters. If Mount Everest were placed at this spot, its summit would still be buried under more than 1.5 miles of water. Descending from the surface, the ocean is divided into distinct layers, each marked by increasing darkness, pressure, and cold. The first few hundred meters are sunlit and familiar. Below that, the twilight zone stretches down to about 1,000 meters, where light fades and temperatures drop sharply. The midnight zone follows, reaching to about 4,000 meters, a realm of near total darkness and steady cold. But the trench does not even begin until around 5,000 meters down, where the seafloor splits open and the true abyss starts. Pressure builds relentlessly with every meter. At the surface, the weight of the atmosphere is 1 bar, about what you feel standing on land. By 1,000 meters, pressure is already 10 times greater. Drop to 5,000 meters, and it is 500 times what we experience above water. By the time you reach the floor of the trench, the pressure is over 1,000 times that of the surface, roughly 16,000 pounds per square inch. That is the equivalent of stacking 50 jumbo jets on a single human body. No unprotected machine, let alone a person, could survive this force. Even the most advanced diving suits would collapse long before reaching these depths. The temperature here hovers just above freezing, rarely rising above 2 degrees Celsius. Sunlight never reaches this far. The water is pitch black, broken only by the occasional glimmer from bioluminescent organisms in the upper layers. Food is scarce, drifting down from the world above as a slow rain of organic particles known as marine snow. The further you go, the less reaches the bottom. The trench's vertical profile is not just a straight drop. Its sides are steep, and the floor itself is narrow and uneven, shaped by earthquakes, landslides, and the slow grinding of tectonic plates. Serena. Deep, a second pit, nearly as deep as Challenger Deep, lies nearby at about 10,809 meters. Together, these basins create an environment more alien than almost anywhere else on Earth. This vertical journey from the bright surface to the trench's shadowed floor sets the stage for everything that lives here. Each layer brings new challenges, and the gradient of pressure, cold, and darkness dictates who survives and how. The trench is not simply deep, it is a world shaped by extremes, where every meter down means a new test of survival. Pressure is only the beginning. The deeper you travel, the more the ocean strips away every advantage life has evolved elsewhere. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the water temperature rarely rises above 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. The cold is relentless, slowing every heartbeat, every chemical reaction, until survival itself is stretched thin. There is no sunlight, only darkness so complete that even bioluminescence fades with depth. But the most unforgiving force is hunger. Food is a rare commodity this far down. The rain of organic debris from above, marine snow, thins out as it falls, picked clean by scavengers or dissolved before it ever reaches the trench floor. Down here, every scrap of energy counts. The animals that survive must do more with less, shrinking their bodies, slowing their metabolisms, and evolving ways to stretch a single meal for days or weeks. The physics of the deep ocean sets hard boundaries. Pressure climbs by 1 atmosphere every 10 meters. At 8,000 meters, the pressure is 800 times what you feel at sea level. This pressure does not just crush machines, it dissolves the very building blocks of animal bodies. Calcium, the stuff of bones and shells, simply will not hold together. That is why you will not find crabs or sharks at these depths. Even the deepest living fish, the snailfish, can only survive to about 8,200 meters. Beyond that, the chemistry of life itself breaks down. Here, a molecule called TMAO becomes the key to survival. It acts like a molecular shield, protecting proteins from being warped by the crushing pressure. But there is a trade-off. The more TMAO a fish packs into its cells, the saltier its blood becomes. At a certain point, around 8,200 to 8,500 meters, the fish's body would be as salty as the seawater outside. Any deeper, and the balance tips. Cells cannot function, and vertebrate life hits a hard ceiling. Cold, darkness, and lack of food force animals to minimize energy use. Metabolisms slow to a crawl. Bodies grow soft and gelatinous, with no need for heavy armor or fast movement. Where deep-sea gigantism once favored large bodies in the abyssal plain, the Hadal zone reverses the trend. Here, small size and simplicity win out. The trench is not a place for monsters, but for survivors, organisms that have traded strength and speed for the bare minimum needed to persist. Every meter deeper means another challenge, another adaptation. The result is a world where the laws of physics and chemistry dictate what life can be, and where the most important trait is the ability to endure. Only a handful of species cross the threshold into the Hadal zone, and none go beyond its ultimate biochemical limits. The trench is a proving ground, not for the biggest and boldest, but for those who can survive on almost nothing at all. Snailfish glide just above the mud at the bottom of the trench, their bodies nearly transparent, lacking scales or armor. The deepest ever recorded, a snailfish was filmed at 8,143 meters, setting a record for vertebrate life. These fish are small, most no longer than a human hand, and their bodies are soft, almost gelatinous. Instead of relying on bones and muscles to fight the pressure, they let it pass through them. Their skeletons are barely more than cartilage, and their skin stretches over organs adapted to work in near-freezing dark. Inside their cells, a molecule called TMAO acts as a shield, stopping proteins from collapsing under the weight of 1,000 atmospheres. But this comes at a cost. The more TMAO they carry, the saltier their blood becomes. There is a hard limit. Past about 8,200 meters, the chemistry of life itself breaks down. No fish have ever been found deeper. The snailfish is the last vertebrate at the edge of what is possible. Nearby, amphipods swarm across the seafloor. These tiny crustaceans, usually just a few centimeters long, are the scavengers of the Hadal world. When a robotic lander drops bait to the bottom, amphipods arrive within minutes, covering the carcass in a living blanket. They are built for efficiency, with spiky tails and streamlined bodies that let them move quickly and avoid predators. Unlike the snailfish, amphipods do not have to worry about bones dissolving. They rely on a tough, flexible shell made of chitin, which holds up better under pressure. Their bodies are simple but effective, allowing them to survive where almost nothing else can. In 2018, researchers made a startling discovery inside these amphipods. Tiny fragments of plastic, microplastics, showed up in their guts, even at the deepest points of the trench. This finding proved that human pollution has reached the farthest corners of the planet, carried down by sinking debris and eaten by creatures that have never seen sunlight. The amphipods, in their role as scavengers, consume whatever drifts down from above, whether it is organic material or synthetic waste. Every meal is a gamble, but in a place where food is so rare, they cannot afford to be picky. Together, the snailfish and amphipods show what it takes to survive in the Hadal zone. There are no giants here, no monsters lurking in the dark. Instead, life has shrunk and softened, trading strength for flexibility and speed for patience. Every adaptation is a compromise, a way to endure the crushing pressure, the cold, and the hunger. The real marvel of the trench is not size or power, but the quiet persistence of creatures making a living at the very edge of possibility. Beneath the snailfish and amphipods, the trench floor reveals a different kind of life, one that doesn't swim or scuttle, but quietly shapes the entire ecosystem. Scattered across the mud are xenophores, organisms that defy almost every expectation. Each one is a single cell, yet some reach the size of a mango, up to 20 centimeters across. These aren't animals or plants. They are giant foraminifera, a kind of protist, and they build their own intricate shells called tests from grains of sediment and minerals collected from their surroundings. In the darkness, these structures become the architecture of the trench, creating microhabitats where other life can take hold. Inside and around these tests, worms thread through the sediment, and tiny invertebrates find shelter from the relentless pressure. The shells trap organic particles drifting down from above, collecting the sparse resources that make survival possible. What looks like lifeless mud is actually a patchwork of hidden communities, each one anchored by these single-celled engineers. Without bones or shells to dissolve, xenophores thrive where more complex life cannot. Their fragile forms are tuned to the trench's unique chemistry, able to withstand pressures that would crush almost anything else. But the story of survival goes even smaller. In the mud and water around xenophores, scientists have uncovered a staggering diversity of microbes. Sediment cores from Challenger Deep have revealed over 7,500 genomes, with almost 90% never seen before. Many of these microbes are adapted to life under crushing pressure, with cell membranes and enzymes that stay stable at more than 1,000 atmospheres. Some feed on the faintest traces of organic matter, while others use chemical reactions with minerals in the sediment to generate energy. In places where oxygen is scarce, certain bacteria can even breathe nitrate or sulfur, eking out a living in ways that seem almost alien. These microbes aren't just survivors, they are the engines of the trench's ecosystem. They break down what little food arrives, recycle nutrients, and even help build the very sediments that blanket the seafloor. Their genetic blueprints hold clues to new biochemical pathways and pressure-resistant proteins, some of which have never been observed in any other environment on Earth. Recent genomic studies have uncovered entire branches of microbial life unique to the Hadal zone, including viruses and bacteria that may play roles in carbon and nitrogen cycling that scientists are only beginning to understand. Xenophores, worms, and microbes together create a hidden world on the trench floor, a world built from single cells, chemical reactions, and microscopic partnerships. Each patch of sediment is a living laboratory where the rules of survival are written by pressure, scarcity, and the quiet persistence of life. None of this would be visible without the help of robotic explorers. Deep-sea landers and remotely operated vehicles, built to survive the same pressures as the organisms they study, have made these discoveries possible. Through their cameras and samplers, the true complexity of the trench floor comes into focus, not a barren wasteland, but a landscape alive with ingenious solutions to impossible challenges. Only a handful of people have ever reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The 1960 dive of the bathyscaphe Trieste, piloted by Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, was a milestone, but it lasted just 20 minutes at the seafloor. Human visits remain rare because no suit or traditional submersible can withstand the crushing pressure, over 1,000 times what we experience at sea level. Instead, almost everything known about the Hadal zone comes from robots. Modern deep-sea exploration relies on landers and remotely operated vehicles built to survive where metal would crumple and glass would shatter. These machines use syntactic foam, a material packed with hollow glass microspheres, to stay buoyant and resist collapse at depths beyond 10,000 meters. Pressure housings protect delicate electronics, and every component is tested to survive forces that would flatten a car into a pancake. Landers are dropped from ships, falling freely for hours before reaching the trench floor. Once there, they record video, collect samples, and sometimes release bait to attract life. After finishing their mission, they jettison weights and float back to the surface. Failures do happen. Vehicles like Kaiko and Nereus were lost to the depths, crushed or torn apart by the pressure. But each new generation of robotic explorer is tougher and smarter, revealing a world that no human could ever visit alone. The evidence they collect, including footage, DNA samples, and pressure readings, forms the foundation of what we know about life at the very bottom of the ocean. For centuries, the deep sea has been a canvas for our wildest fears and fantasies. Early sailors spun tales of krakens and leviathans, monsters so huge they could drag entire ships beneath the waves. Even today, blockbuster movies and viral headlines love to imagine colossal beasts lurking in the ocean's hidden trenches. The Mariana Trench, with its almost unimaginable depth and darkness, has become the ultimate backdrop for these stories. But the real footage from the bottom tells a different story. Instead of titanic predators, cameras reveal a quiet world of small, soft-bodied survivors, snailfish that fit in your hand, amphipods no bigger than a paperclip, and single-celled xenophores that build fragile homes from mud. There are no giants waiting in the shadows, no monsters circling in the black. The evidence is clear: the trench isn't a realm of size and terror, but of endurance and ingenuity. Survival here depends on shrinking down, slowing life to a crawl, and making the most of every scrap. The myth of the monster fades, replaced by something far more remarkable. Down here, survival itself is the real achievement. Right now, over 80% of our ocean remains unexplored, its deepest trenches mapped more precisely than visited. As technology pushes further, each discovery in these extreme depths challenges our assumptions about life's limits. The true mystery is not what monsters lurk below, but how small, fragile life endures. Sometimes, survival, not size, is the greatest marvel. What would you want to see explored next? Share your thoughts below.